What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Sub Stories. My name's Ricky, and over the last 19 years, I've been to a million shows, and I have ticket stubs to prove it. There's a story that goes along with every single show, and I'm going to tell you about them. So, last episode was the first of a two-part series of this page, where we focused on Vans Warped Tour 2005, and also Yellowcard Something Corporate's co-headliner in spring of 2004. On today's episode, we're going to focus on not only the original Vans Warped Tour Massachusetts State back in 2004, but also the 10-year anniversary show, which took place the very next day, also in the parking lot at Gillette Stadium. Thursday, August 19th, 2004, last day of the Vans Warped Tour, rolls through Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. It's my first year going to the tour. I grew up loving it, always wanting to go. It just kind of never worked out. So my buddy Mike, his dad drove us down, got us a hotel because the next day was the 10-year anniversary party. We'll get to that in a second. I was super stoked. I mean, I love pop punk music. I loved everything about the Warped Tour. It's all I cared about. So to be able to go was amazing. So I got to see, Newfound Glory and Yellowcard, Story of the Year, bands I'd seen a whole bunch at that time. To kind of keep things familiar. Alistair played on a smaller stage, and then I also got to see Take Back Sunday played, but I can't remember if I saw them at that one. I'm pretty sure I did, because I do vaguely remember Adam throwing the microphone up and it hanging at the end of their set. But to be honest with you, that might have just been a video. But I know they definitely played that tour. Bouncing Souls played. It was my first time seeing them, which was super rad. Coheed and Cambria was cool. Never really been my favorite band. They played. I do very distinctly remember seeing Bad Religion for the first time ever, and Anti-Flag. Both of those bands stood out to me big time. Huge Anti-Flag fan. To this day, I still haven't seen them. It's been 16 years. Every time they come around, I don't know why I don't go. But yeah, it was awesome. Kind of running around, drinking in the Warped Tour lifestyle. I remember Flogging Molly closed the show out. This was back when Warped Tour still had the vert ramp, so there were skaters, and there was a little wrestling ring thing over in the corner. But at the end of every show, they would shoot somebody out of a cannon. I don't remember if they went up over the vert ramp or if it was up and over the main stage, and then they landed in the there was a big net thing that caught them. But I do remember getting to see that and being super super pumped about it. I thought that was really cool. We actually got these. Do you guys remember ringtones? So Warped Tour was giving out these ringtone things that kind of look like backstage passes, or the lanyards. So this one's just kind of a 10-year anniversary print. Down the bottom it has a couple of the bands that played, Yellowcard, Story of the Year, stuff like that. Shout out Singular and Samsung. And then this one had a Fall Out Boy logo and letter Kills on it. So two things. We ended up using those. We took them, we stretched out the ropes and pulled them down over us and wore them as you would if you were in a band and you were wearing your backstage lanyard. We wore those to walk into catering, which at the time we thought was the coolest thing we've ever done. We didn't meet anybody that I can remember, or at least there was nobody there that we recognized, but I do remember walking in. Because it was at a stadium, they had catering. Catering was actually inside, which was really cool. So we got to go in, get out of the heat for a little bit. We probably had a bottle of water or something. I don't remember eating food, but so that was kind of cool. Our first time really sneaking in somewhere during a show. And then to still have those passes 16 years later is pretty dope. I kind of forgot I had them until I started putting this book back together, and they were just kind of shoved in here. About 2 or 3 weeks ago on the Seltzer Time podcast, we actually got to interview Kevin Lyman, founder of the Warped Tour, and I showed him those passes or those lanyard things. I didn't tell him that story, but still got to show him those. It's kind of cool. The Rise, that tour is kind of crazy. Rise Against played on one of the side stages, as did Fall Out Boy. And I was reading earlier, before I started recording this, I was kind of looking up what Fall Out Boy did. So Fall Out Boy had played, they didn't play the whole tour, they played most of it, and they were playing on a wicked small stage. And I guess they had, every day the crowd was getting larger and larger and larger. They only had out from Take This to Your Grave at the time, but still the best Fall Out Boy record. This was August. I want to say that fall, I think, is when Sugar We're Going Down came out. Following year, they were on Warped Tour and they were massive. But this was cool because it was the first time I ever saw them. They played at like 11 o'clock in the morning or 12 or whenever we got inside. It was like one of the first 1 or 2 bands to play. They were awesome. So much energy. It was so sick. So I just remember kind of like spending the whole day running around, just being obsessed with every single aspect of what was happening. It was amazing. So the next day, so the Used played that weekend. I don't remember if they played the 10-year like anniversary show or if they played. I think they only played like that, the last date of the tour. But it was, you can look it up on YouTube. It's a super, super, super famous clip. They played Take It Away. Yeah. That was the first time I think they performed that live, was to close out their set at that Warped Tour. And it was amazing. Bert like climbed up onto the speakers, screamed, and then dove off into the crowd. It was so insane. It was like one of the first times I saw a band do that. I kind of thought he was going to die. It was incredible. It was so good. So, yeah, I saw the Used, and then I think that's it really for that day. But then the next day was kind of the day I was looking forward to the most. This is where I got to see a lot of bands that I never, at the time, kind of thought I would see, who I like went on to see a bunch more, but it kind of like opened my eyes to like what those bands are like live. So for the 10-year anniversary show, a bunch of bands flew in. It wasn't all the same bands from the day before. There was a couple, but not a whole lot. But I got to see Andrew WK, which, again, this is still the only time I've ever seen him. He was incredible. His band was awesome. It was so much fun. Such a party. Bad Religion played. I'm sure I watched them again if I could. Body Count played, and I know I didn't watch them, but I kind of regret that. I remember watching Dropkick Murphys and Rancid, both 2 bands that at the time were like these massive, massive bands for me. Bands that I listened to, idolized them. So it was cool to finally see those bands. Dropkicks were awesome. Super, super, super good live. This is back when they still had like the bagpipes and like the whole thing going on. They brought Rancid out for the last song, and I just remember like people crushing the stage. It was wild. Got to see Rancid, which was amazing. My first time seeing them, they're kind of like a punk rock Beatles in a way to me. I love that band so much. It was so sick to see them. H2O. Who else did I see on that? Good Charlotte flew in for that. That was cool. Talib Kweli. It was the first and only time I saw Talib Kweli. One of my favorite hip-hop artists ever. So I got to see him. My Chemical Romance played that show, which was incredible. This was kind of like right around the time they were starting to really take off. I think 3 Cheers was the only record they had out at the time. Who else is on there? Unwritten Law, Pennywise. I remember seeing Pennywise. So that was the first time and the only time I ever saw them. Up until last summer, I saw them open for Rancid in Worcester. So it was kind of cool. That was great. Midtown played. The 2 bands that are something corporate. The 2 bands that definitely I took away the most outside of Andrew WK and Rancid were probably Less Than Jake and Finch. I was supposed to see Finch a year before, 2 years before at the Palladium. They were doing a co-headlining tour with the Used. I was grounded and couldn't go. So I'd seen the Used prior, but it was my first time seeing Finch, who I loved. Got to watch them play. They played on one of the side stages. I think they might have played even before Talib Kweli. It was that same stage. I do remember that. But it was amazing. Like seeing them play. I think Glassjaw might have played right around that same time too. But Randy from Finch had like half of his face shaved and the other half he left as a beard. So it was like no matter how you looked at him, he like looked kind of strange. It was weird. But they were so good. And then Less Than Jake was incredible. I just remember them playing. They're the seminal Warped Tour band. Every time I've ever been to Warped Tour, basically, they played. It's either them or Real Big Fish are kind of always like the go-to ska band for the tour. But seeing Less Than Jake that time was incredible. This was my second time seeing them. First time was back at the DCU Center opening for Newfound Glory and Good Charlotte. But I remember them playing and all just people turning it into a huge circle pit. But instead of like moshing, they just ran around the sound tent and all the way back to the stage. So of course we had to do that. So we're out there running around. going crazy. It's like 90 something degrees. It was just insane. You can see my cats in the background. But they had guys coming out like shooting toilet paper and throwing t-shirts. It was wild. Like the absolute greatest rock and roll band ever when it comes to live shows is definitely Less Than Jake. So I enjoyed seeing them and just being completely floored, sorry, by the way they played and performed. It was awesome. But yeah, so that's it. Hope you guys enjoy Stub Stories.